Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for July 2nd, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great evening, got some good rest, ready for another wild and crazy day in the market. How about we take a turn around the world here and see what happened overnight? First off, we had Asian markets, well, kind of mixed last night. Australia was slightly lower. South Korea was slightly lower, but the Nikkei hit new record highs, and Hong Kong was strong, and Shanghai just barely moved up, only 2.28 points, still hovering below that psychological 3,000 level in their market. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets are lower across the board. In fact, the DAX is decidedly lower, almost 1% lower this morning. CAC is lower, FTSE's lower, even as European markets showed that their inflation kind of held in there steady. So, well, a little bit of concern over there. If we look at U.S. markets this morning, we're also showing bearishness with the Dow futures down 119 points, S&P 500 down 20 and a quarter, and NASDAQ down a surprising 91 and a half this morning. So pretty substantial declines, at least at the moment. But remember, what we have seen is we start one direction and then we end up reversing. So who knows, we could gap lower this morning. Yesterday we gapped up and then sold all the way back off, and maybe we gap down and then buy it all the way back up as we continue this chopping market. Let's take a look at what's happening other places. If we take a look at oil, oil is up a little bit this morning. If we take a look at like XLE, you can see it's been trying to creep up, even though we had a bearish engulfing candle yesterday, just continuing to creep up with worries about South Korea. There's also this idea that maybe we have a demand outlook increasing. We'll see, but right now oil is up 58 cents a barrel. Brent crude is up 60 cents a barrel. And if we take a look at natural gas, well, natural gas is still not happy. Continuing this slide, breaking some areas in here. I'm going to move this down. Here's a good support level here in the chart. If it can hold that area of support right through here, we might bounce back up, but right now natural gas is looking pretty ugly. If we take a look at our precious metals, well, metals this morning, a little bit of volatility here, I should say. We've got gold futures looking lower this morning. As a matter of fact, gold is down $5.20 an ounce at the moment, and we have silver slightly higher, copper slightly higher, and platinum and palladium up. Palladium has been incredibly volatile here lately. Big moves in palladium, and this morning up about $15.50. So keep an eye on that as we challenge this downtrend here in the chart. Let's take a look at our cryptos here this morning. Well, cryptos are feeling a little bit rough. We've got Bitcoin down 574 points. And kind of a mix in crypto data this morning. So if we take a look at things like BITO, the Bitcoin strategy ETF, you can see continuing to move in this downtrend, feeling overall pressure and pain. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing that this morning is we have a substantial rise in the dollar this morning. Now, very volatile. We'll be watching this closely. It may be just some pre-market jitters. But if we take a look at bonds this morning, bonds are down just slightly from yesterday at 4.75% on the 2s. The 10s are looking at 4.45 and the 30-year at 4.61%. Those came up pretty substantially yesterday, even as the market was trying to get something going in the pre-market. So we'll have to keep a pretty close eye on that. Now, If we were to take a look at that dollar here this morning, US dollar, you can see we are seeing in UUP a pretty substantial pop here this morning. It's popped and pulled back here quite a bit, but there's something going on here with the US dollar strengthening. We'll want to be watching that pretty closely today. So, what does all that mean for this morning? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at these charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, everyone, we want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and to shake off our personal bias in those charts. So first off, if we take a look at the diamonds here, as you can see, the Dow, last couple of days, trading days, Friday we shot up here, we tested this resistance. Yesterday we shot up here, tested that resistance, created what we would call a tweezer top. In here, we're only just a few ticks from each other. The high on Friday, 394.32. The high yesterday, 394.29. So kind of a tweezer in there on that top. And now we're seeing a little bit of follow through to the downside. And as I mentioned yesterday to the folks in Right Way Options Trading Service, that it really doesn't matter when we have this kind of volatility intraday. What matters is the follow through. What will the follow through be? This morning we're getting a little follow through to the downside. Now that doesn't mean terrible things are going to happen, but if we were to break down below some of this support area here in the chart, I think it would raise a little bit of fear here in the market. Everyone is starting to get a little bit concerned about the market and how it's so concentrated in just a handful of tech sector stocks, and that's holding the market up. We'll have to see if that raises any additional concerns here in the market if we do get some selling. But if those bears were to come in and break below this area here, then I would suggest that possibility we could start looking for support areas just a little bit lower here in this chart, moving on down and seeing whether or not we're going to test this trend break right here as a little bit of support. And if this upside trend area here coming together all at this point would hold as a support area, breaking below that would, I think, really raise some concerns here in the market. And you could also see there is an upside trend right here that we could easily break potentially today as well if those bears were to get going. Now, if the bulls find inspiration here in the market, well, first thing we need to do is get right back above, get back on the horse here, as they say, right back above that resistance level in the chart. And if we can do that, then we're going to be back up here testing this area that we have rejected several times here in the recent past. So watch that carefully here on the diamonds. You'll also want to note that the diamonds is holding just above its 50-day moving average. So this is going to be critical if we hold that area of support and bounce, or if we find enough bearish energy in here to push us down below there. That could raise a little bit of concern in the market. Let's take a look at our SPY. When we look at the SPY, there's nothing in here that you can look at and say, gosh, that's really bearish. Nope, it's all kinds of bullish in here. Nice little resting consolidation in an upside trend, holding above a support level. Nothing about that chart looks bearish, but you can see how we could quickly change that opinion if we were to drop through here. Holding on to that trend is an important thing. If we can hold on to this support area, we're going to be in good shape. But if we drop below there, I would look for that gap fill and probably a raise of some concern here in the SPY. If that were to happen, I would expect to see a little bit of fear come in the market if that were the case. And I think we're so centric in just a few stocks here in the market that we could actually see that run for the door, where everybody looks to take profits and get out of the way if we're going to start pulling back. Now, if the bulls find inspiration here today and hold this trend and support area, every reason to believe, the way the market has acted, that we could break through this resistance here in the chart, then start pushing up for the all-time highs. And if we can get that done, well, then blue skies above here in the SPY. Looking at our moving averages here, we are way elevated above the 50-day moving average, which does lead me to believe that there will at some point in time be some kind of a pullback or correction in the tech sector. I can't tell you when it's going to happen, but it does lead me to believe that that is a likely case before too long. If we take a look at the QQQ, very much the same in that fact that we are extremely stretched here away from our moving average. But again, I have no idea when that's going to occur. All I can do is look at the chart, and looking at the chart, there's nothing in here that isn't bullish. We're holding above support, we're holding above trend. Everything in here is looking good and pretty darn copacetic. If the bears find inspiration, first thing we need to do is maybe pull back and test some support here in the chart. And if that support were to fail, that's the only time we're going to see some major concern in the market. If we were to drop down through there, I would look for some of these areas like right in here, possible gap fill, and then we'd start looking through these levels here in the QQQ. If, however, the bulls find that willingness to hold this support area here, and every reason to believe it could, if we can hold in this area, consolidate over, moving toward that trend, every reason to believe we start moving back up here in the QQQ, start breaking through some resistance here in the chart, and then we'd start looking for these upside targets and blue sky above in the Qs. And last but not least, if we take a look at IWM, it had a kind of a rough day yesterday. Once again, trying to tag this resistance up here, just couldn't hold on. Bears came in, pushed us back down pretty substantially. Remember, IWM doesn't have the big tech giants. There's no benefit here in IWM when we're so centric in just a few stocks. Now, keeping in mind, we have a little upside trend here. We could test that as support in the chart. Keep a close eye on that. Also remember that we've got this downtrending pattern here to deal with as well. If those bears were to find inspiration today, pushing this on down, then I would suggest there's some price support right in here that we could start testing, and then we start looking on lower, and then potentially coming down here into this area of price support if those bears were to really grab on and get something going. If the bulls, however, find inspiration today, then bouncing up off of this little upside trend looks like a possibility. And then we'd look back up here, see if we can deal with this resistance, and if we can break through there, then we start looking at this downtrending area in the chart to see if we can challenge that. Then, of course, breaking through this area up here, then right back up here to retest this area that we have rejected just recently. So watch carefully there on the Russell. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX yesterday started with a little bit of fear, gapping up in the morning, and you can see pulling back. No fear in the market. As long as we can continue to push the big tech giants up, everybody seems pretty comfortable with that at the moment. Me, on the other hand, that makes me kind of nervous being so centric into just a few stocks. Keeping in mind, there's that downtrend here in the chart that we broke to the upside, holding in here. We've got this very, very flat little upside trend in here. The only time that I think we can create major problems in the market is when the VIX starts to make a higher low. So if we were to start pushing up into here and make some kind of higher low, then I would have a concern and think that there would be some fear coming in the market. But right now, we are so comfortable with just pushing a few stocks to the upside and leaving the majority of stocks not looking so good. And we can see that in our T2122. The T2122 indicator, the 4-week new high, new low ratio, as you can see in here, we had more stocks selling yesterday than going up as we continued to push and give the illusion that everything was beautiful in those index charts. So running around 22% here in the market. If we continue to see this bearishness this morning, every reason to believe we could be pushing down into this area to test that bullish reversal zone. That's when we have so many stocks in a heavily sold off condition that we start to look for some kind of rebound or relief on that selling. Now I know it's hard to even put that together because we continue to see SPY QQQ staying very, very bullish, but the majority of stocks have been very weak. If, however, the bulls find inspiration, we could, in some of the data today, we could certainly start to push up, and then keep in mind we have a big upside opportunity if the bulls find some kind of inspiration in the market. Our T2108 really displays this pretty well. T2108, the percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average, we have only got 31% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. We continue to move in this downtrend here in the chart. We continue to stay very, very weak here, meaning there are a lot of stocks that are extremely weak, even as we continue to push the SPY and the QQQ and hold it in that bullish trend. Now, keeping this in mind, we haven't broken any support here yet, so we still have that possibility. If the bulls can find inspiration, we could bounce off of there and push up. But with the pre-market activity, I'm going to suggest the possibility this could break that support and start looking for lower prints here in T2108, which really remains pretty darn bearish. And if we take a look at T2107, same thing is true. T2107, there's that hockey stick in the air. I talked about how those hockey sticks in the air can sometimes create that selling, and there we go, sold right back off. We're back below 50% here in our T2107, the percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average. And you can see we've been continuing to move in this downtrend, and that possibility that today, with that selling, we could drop this in even a little bit lower here in the chart. But if we get some great data or something today, maybe we'll bounce back up and finally break that downtrend and get a little bit more enthusiasm here to the market, to the upside. When I'm speaking enthusiasm, take a look at T2101. This is tragic. What happened yesterday, as the market was going up, we saw T2101 in the right way options room. This was going down. When the sellers came in, we saw T2101 come up. Now remember, breadth works in both ways. If we see bullish breadth pushing in the market, we should see this rally. We didn't see that until the sellers came in. When the sellers came in, we saw breadth turn up just slightly. Now, not enough to really be worrisome at this point, but we have had an extremely weak market breadth here for some time. And I do understand part of this because we are in our blackout period here where corporate buybacks are not possible, and that's become such a big part of the volume of the market. But if you look across here, this is a very, very weak breadth in the market. A lot of concern maybe being hidden or masked by the tech sector, that centric look that we've got in just a handful of stocks. So watch that carefully, because if those handful of stocks were to join to the downside, I would suspect this could start rising on that bearish wave. So be kind of careful here in the market. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar does have a couple of things that we'll want to be paying attention to. I apologize, I forgot to have that centered here for us. Let's take a look. Today we've got a Jerome Powell speech. We all know that Jerome Powell speeches can create some volatility. It's highly likely it will be a non-event, but we know that if he says something different that we haven't heard, then we can see some volatility in the market. So that will be coming out here this morning. Keep an eye on that. And then we've got a job openings report. In here, the job openings are expected to decline. That helps out that possibility of a rate cut. If we see that declining, it might raise some concerns if it were to drop hard, or if it were to come in hotter than expected. That could be a problem for the market, so watch carefully there. And then we've got some bond announcements. So very light day on the economic calendar, but remember, we're going to be jumping right into Wednesday. Everybody's going to be thinking about this over here. We've got Williams speaking, mortgage applications, a Challenger job cut report, an ADP report, international trading goods, jobless claims, a PMI composite number, factory orders, ISM numbers, petroleum status, and then we're going to have an early close for the market, 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The NYSE will close tomorrow after the natural gas report, and then we're going to have a FOMC minutes coming out after that close. So kind of keep an eye on that. And then, of course, we're going into a full shutdown for the 4th of July holiday. And we're going to be thinking about this employment situation number coming in on Friday. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. And our earnings calendar is pretty light this time of season as we're waiting for the next round of earnings to come along, which will begin on the 12th. We're going to have a dry period here, but the 12th we begin with the big bank reports. Let's take a look this morning. We have MSM that will be reporting this morning. Looks like we're going just a little bit lower on MSN. RDUS trying to move to the upside here this morning on its report. And SLP will report this afternoon. So keep an eye on those. Those are the only things that I could really come up with notables here for today. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do truly, truly appreciate it. Remember, just a reminder that tonight I'm doing a public e-learning session. That will be, just come to the Hit and Run Candlesticks trading room. It will be open to the public. You guys are welcome. We'll be doing lots of question and answer tonight, so please feel free to come on over. And also want to remind everyone that Hit and Run Candlesticks Right Way Options, we're all closed on Friday. We're going to take Thursday, the closure of Thursday, and also be closed Friday. So there will be no blogs or no videos on Thursday and Friday. So thank you so much for everyone who supports us and understand that, hey, we're going to celebrate the holiday and take a little bit of time to relax, and hope you do as well. Let's take a look at what we've got going here on some of these stocks setting up. up. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You've got to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market. First off, I want to mention the financials. If we take a look at XLF had an opportunity to really get going yesterday. It was another one that popped up and hit that downtrend. Notice this trend break right in here as well. Kind of a little bit of a double or even a triple whammy if you throw in that resistance, and then rejected that yesterday and started to pull back. Now, if you are a bull, you want to hold on to this price support here and say we can't fall below that level. But we got a little bit of bearishness coming in here this morning, so keep an eye on that. This would constitute that potential lower high and a possible shorting opportunity in XLF. Now, keeping in mind, it's also a failure of that 50-day moving average. One of my favorite shorting patterns is a failure of the 50-day moving average, and we call it a blue ice failure, and this certainly qualifies for that opportunity there today. So keep a close eye on that. We did see a lot of these financials trying to push higher and had a really good day yesterday. Goldman breaking the downtrend in here. We saw WFC really shooting up here, but overall those financials are starting to show quite a little bit of weakness. We'll want to be keeping an eye on that. Let's take a look. Couple other areas in the market. Of course, we know that we've been seeing some real struggling going on here in the crypto area of the market, but coin made a nice little run up here to a price resistance area in the chart. Now the question is, can it break through that resistance, or will we find another potential lower high here in the market continuing to move down? So watch that carefully here on coin, and with some of that bearishness that we're seeing here in the market, that certainly does seem possible. So watch carefully there. Now, if we take a look other places here in the drug sector, oil sector here, MARA had a really good, this is financial, had a really good day along with those other financials, really pushing up into those downtrends, breaking through. So any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity here. What I was thinking about is MRNA. MRNA continuing to fall in this pattern. We had a little bit of a shot to the upside the other day in some of these stocks, but still looking pretty weak. However, I would be watching this area of price support anywhere between this range. If we can find a little bit of price support in there, we might start building a little bit of a base for a return to the upside. If we take a look at stocks like Pfizer continuing to show a little bit of push, maybe a W formation here in the market. Trying to push, rejected that resistance yesterday just a little bit with a pullback after the run to the upside. Keep an eye on some of these drug makers. A few of them are trying to show a little bit of improvement, but there is an awful lot of evidence that we still are hating on them pretty heavily here. So watch that closely. Take a look at CRM. As you guys know, I continue to think CRM is a great looking chart, breaking through this resistance, moving up, and now we're fading back toward this trend. I still think there's a pretty good opportunity for that to come up here and test that resistance, filling the gap in that chart. Still like the chart in NetApp. We're just slowly squeezing to the upside. We'll see if we've got enough enthusiasm in the market to make that follow through. But right now, NetApp is still a pretty good setup in the chart. Now, if we take a look at some of the big techs in here, we have quite the interesting setups here. And let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft continues to be very bullish, a very bullish candle yesterday, maybe catching a little pullback here this morning. Every reason to believe this is all-time highs in Microsoft, every reason to believe that that could continue to happen. However, if we take a look at AMD, a little bit of a contradiction here. We ran up, we tested resistance, completely reversed that move, came down, broke this support, ended up bouncing back up at the end of the day. but I continue to think AMD is setting up short. So watch this carefully here on AMD. Remember, this is another failure of a 50-day moving average, so watch that carefully here on AMD. We can't say the same thing about Google. Very bullish in a very bullish pattern, holding up here on its trend. Look for that next opportunity if that can find that bullish energy to pop on out. Certainly looks like a possibility there in that chart. Keep a close eye on it. When I look at some of the retail out here, retail is starting to give me a little tiny bit of concern. We've got Costco here showing a potential head and shoulders top. If it were to break this area here in the chart, watch that carefully. Now there's support down here, so it wouldn't go all that far, but I still think it could be a nice potential trade. And when I look at Walmart, it's just kind of hanging in there on that support. If we got a little bit of bearishness coming into the market, dropping through that support couldn't be a major surprise, and probably again wouldn't go all that far, but a little bit of concern starting to come in on some of the retail here in the market. Take a look at, we want to see some concern. Take a look at Target. Target, another bearish candle coming in there yesterday. Any follow through to the downside, breaking this support could be critical. However, if it can hold this area in here, we might be starting to begin a little bit of a bottoming pattern in here on Target. Watch that one close. So kind of a mix of things like we're seeing in a lot of places, a lot of weakness in a lot of stocks, yet we still have that bullishness coming in places that's pretty remarkable. Take a look at Snow. Now, Snow had a really good day yesterday, again, continuing to stretch back up. If we look at our moving averages, we're coming up here to test that 50-day. So what I would expect here is either a pullback or a little bit of a consolidation in there, in that rest. And then if that can hold in this consolidation, a little bit of resting pullback, then I would look for that possibility we could pop on through. PLTR also having a pretty good day, pushing on up here, trying to break through this resistance in the chart. I guess the question for today, with a little bit of bearishness coming in, is will we be able to hold this up here, or will this fail, creating another rejection of this resistance? And boy, there has been a lot of rejections of this area in the chart, so we'll want to be keeping a pretty close eye on PLTR if it can hold. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to, guys. Be really careful in this market. Remember, volumes are likely going to start dropping pretty quickly. There'll be some volatility in the morning tomorrow, and then of course an early close heading into the holiday. Make sure you're protecting yourself. Make sure you're planning your risk carefully. I want to wish you all the very, very best. Have an awesome day, and I will see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Take care, everyone.